the whole place has been ransacked, things stolen, things destroyed, a legacy of a lifetime. It's just been treated with so much disrespect, and I can't believe what I'm here today seeing. It's just so sad. It's just the end, basically, of the industrial age. And I got a phone call from Alan McEwen, a friend of Fred's, and he basically said he'd been past the house, he'd visited the grave on that Saturday and seen things in the garden which he considered, in his opinion, shouldn't have been there, such as like an old lamp, oil lamp, a miner's lamp, things of that nature. And he said I better go back and find out what's happening. So I took my mum back to Blackpool and picked my son up, came back to Bolton, opened the front door, and sure enough, everything was totally ransacked. They'd gone through all the drawers, all the cupboards, everything had been pulled out. Things, not particularly in the house destroyed, but certainly they'd spent a lot of time in there looking through. I'd say maybe gone back twice and had another look, because they'd even been in the loft, believe it or not. I was very much hoping that this place would be turned into a heritage centre when all the estate matters were settled. I would have liked to have seen everything preserved. In my opinion, in an ideal world, all this out of the sheds, if it couldn't have been held here in situ, would have been taken to somewhere like Manchester Science Museum, preserved for posterity, or anywhere really where they had the space. Because as you say, hallowed ground, people had come far and wide to see this. And now it's just a distant memory of Fred with all his lovely things destroyed. Very sad. Well, we're here on Boxing Day today to see that the engines are preserved. That means taking them away on a low loader so they can't be subject to any more vandalism, and that's something which must be done very, very quickly. I think if there's any cloud at all which has got a silver lining in this respect, it's that these engines haven't been totally damaged and stripped of all the brass work. You know, we've sustained damage to Betsy, one of the plaques has been taken, but you know, I'm just relieved and pleased that we can move the engines today, and at least they'll be safe. Don't know what will happen to the rest of it. Short of 24-hour security, there's not a lot we can do. Just hope and pray that they grow tired and don't keep coming back.
I'm coming to help in any capacity I can with moving Fred's dear old engines to somewhere where they're going to be safe and they can be not fiddled with and pieces pinched off them by these characters who keep coming in here. For the past week, every single day, possibly more than once, Fred's place has been visited by people that we don't really know whether they're pinching brass for scrap or for souvenirs, but every day something is pinched and moved. And so it's obvious we've got to get these engines away from here, and I've just something's just driven me to ring everybody up, all of the family and the executor of the will, because we've just got to do something. We can't just keep waiting for these solicitors and having time going by, because even in 1 week of these people coming here, They've started damaging Betsy, taking the big Flintshire County Council brass plates, that's disappeared, which is, everybody's seen this plate, and it's part of the engine obviously, and even if it's replaced it's not going to be the original one that Fred restored all them years ago. So it's it's a very sad time. It's very sad to see the engines going obviously, and it's very sad that they're not going to go under their own steam, because Fred didn't have time to retube the boiler on Betsy. He was more interested getting the tractor finished and working with his coal mine, and so Betsy really has not had the attention that Fred would have liked to have given it in the last years of his life. So we can't steam it away, it's got to be towed up with a tractor, and the biggest job with that is we've got to get it out the shed, and we've got to turn it round and pull it out backwards, because we can't pull it with the front forks in case we snap them. And it's bloody awful, because I've known these engines since 1972, or the roller anyway, since I was 12 years old, and I've known all the family, all the wives, all the children, and it's horrible for everybody. It's not just me and the family, it's all the enthusiasts and the fans, and it's just so unfair, so very, very unfair. But I'm sure without a doubt this has been the last time that this engine will be here. The roller's been here since 1968, that was the time Fred first bought the roller here. When he got it in 1967, he kept it on a little bit of wasteland on Manchester Road where the Greyhound racing track was. And the very first thing he did at this house was make some gates at the top of the road and dig a few trees out and some roots and make this driveway up to the drive.
It's Boxing Day, it's around 9 o'clock and it's freezing cold. Most self-respecting people are at home, ensconced around the table waiting for the family to arrive for the midday meal. It's a very sad occasion because we're here to remove Fred Dibnah's famous collection of steam engines and other artefacts. Just a few days earlier, Christine, that's my wife, and I were nearby. We'd visited Fred's grave and we decided we'd just come round to the front of Park Cottage, and out of the car we got. I strolled along the front where we parked the car by the railings to the front of the cottage. Very sad, very forlorn. Looking through the fence I noticed that there were a miner's lamp, and this was the miner's lamp I recognised as belonging to Fred, and Fred had it and lovingly restored it and polished it on his mantel shelf for many years. And there were also a candle sconce and one or two other articles. Within a second or two the penny dropped that, by golly, there must have been a burglary. So without further ado I telephoned Michael Webber, another close friend and a very dear old friend of Fred's, who was very shocked, obviously very shocked, and then a series of events led up to him getting in touch with Sheila Dibnah, which has resulted in this morning's business here at Radcliffe Road. This is the famous old Land Rover, that's the ubiquitous machine. Been in my yard many times, been all over the country. Fred loved this machine. He weren't the best driver of it, I hasten to add, in the world. He didn't like internal combustion engines, but it were a tremendous, hard-working workhorse. And look at Fred's particular style of scaffolding on top of the vehicle itself. This was for carrying his tons and tons and tons weight of ladders and his ropes and blocks and tackle and everything else. We've had to bring in a specialist team. We've got Johnny Johnson of Johnson's from the Banks near Southport. and they're famous at being heavy recovery specialists of heavy goods vehicles and related machinery. They've got all the necessary winches, trailers, tractors, loaders and similar equipment. And there's also Alan Atkinson, an old friend of Fred's, with his tractor unit and his long trailer, and this will be the first time that the two steam engines have been on a wagon trailer together. Alan Atkinson were a close friend of Fred, and indeed he carried Fred's engine, the steam tractor, all around Britain during the making of the BBC film Made in Britain, that Fred portrayed as magnificently as he did. I found it very sad surveying this scene. It's a tragedy. Fred was a very close and dear friend of mine. He was very inspirational to me and inspirational to many others. This site were his life. This back garden, as he referred to it, were his all-encompassing passion. He built this wonderful collection of steam vehicles and buildings and plant and equipment for over a period of perhaps 30 odd years. Less than 500 yards from here, across the river, Fred lies in his grave, and he'd be incensed with fury if he saw what was happening today with the breakup of this magnificent collection. The last time this bonny little Aveling engine saw the light of day was the sad occasion of Fred's funeral in November 2004. This hauling process is not as easy as it looks. This is due to the layout of the ramp behind Fred's house. It's a very steep incline ramp upwards. The slippery surface of the roadway underfoot. This is due to fallen leaves. The rear end of the tractor is having to use its hydraulic stabilising gear to get a good solid purchase prior to engaging the winch itself to haul the steam tractor right to the back of the tractor itself. There's leaves and moss and mould and dead twigs underfoot, and it's like the proverbial ice rink. This is a particularly sad or poignant scene because I like to see an engine hard at work, working hard against this incline under its own steam power, not being hauled by the power from an internal combustion engine, and Fred would have agreed there wholeheartedly. These are experts. They're not rushing and flying around. They're taking everything nice and steady, because after all, these are indeed the crown jewels of the steam world. The lads are busily engaged securing the tow bar to the rear end of the steam tractor, which in turn is to be coupled to Johnson's loader, which is going to take up to the rear. This is going to act as a safety procedure, and this is in the event, due to the slippery underfoot conditions, of the loads themselves starting to slide backwards down the treacherous slope. This is a precise operation. These guys are experts. You've obviously got to keep your fingers out of the way. The bar is offered into the clevis and the pin is placed in, and it looks a relatively simple operation, but there's a lot of expertise and timing goes into that. Fred promised David Hall that he would get the steam tractor up and running, and this in fact was prior to his diagnosis from the hospital of his terminal illness. And notwithstanding that illness, he nevertheless, being the man he were, a true man, a true northern man full of grit, he got stuck in and he actually completed the tractor, made an absolutely stupendous and astonishing job of getting that up and running, particularly so when he was so desperately ill. The steam tractor has now been safely delivered onto the surface of the road, with the denuded branches of the trees in the background forming an atmospheric effect. Normally, anything to do with Fred would bring in mass crowds, but today it's just the team and perhaps one or two spectators. I met Fred at a mill at Worsley in the west part of Manchester in 1981 while I were engaged on work and he were there also, and we just hit it off, and we realised quickly that we shared a passion for all aspects of engineering. I greatly admired Fred as a steeplejack, and in turn he admired me as a boilermaker, and we shared many interests on a regular basis and enjoyed chatting together. As a master boilermaker, I used to compliment Fred on his expertise in all aspects of boilermaking, whether it be flanging plate, whether it be putting patches in, and particularly so when it comes to riveting, because he was an absolute master at the art, and it is an art. And I've seen many boilermakers throughout the years who could not put down a rivet like Fred Dibnah could. Fred never got round to actually naming this engine. He just described it as the steam tractor, or the Aveling steam tractor, the racehorse. He always wanted it to do 16 miles an hour. Whether it got to that, we don't know, because of course when he first commissioned it and put it onto the road, he had troubles with it steaming, and that was mainly due to the valve gear. And all the time we were greatly concerned about a number of very small, almost insignificant rivet leakages. And because, for example, the boiler were painted black, the leakage from the rivet stood out quite starkly. And this concerned Fred, particularly when he was tired and particularly when he was in pain. And I can recall an occasion when perhaps he'd been on the road and one or two people had noticed, bystanders, didn't mean any harm by it whatsoever, somewhat bemused by these leaks, but to Fred it was a real put down. And I can recall being down in Herefordshire on a job and my telephone rang one Friday and it was Fred, and they were really saddened and downcast. People had been, he said, wittering over the state of health of his riveting. And so I give him some advice on how to stop the leakage. Whether he took it all the way I put it, I don't know, but it did. Most of the leaks did stop.
There's a few other bits there.
Yeah.
These are just a few of the items that have been recovered from the riverbank to the rear of Fred's house. I don't think we'll ever know who the thieves actually were, but if they ever are caught, then they want the full weight of the law to come down upon them. It's a sad reflection of modern British society that a man's home is no longer sacrosanct. Michael Webber was saying earlier how they'd have to take the roller up the ramp backwards. The team from Johnson's have come up with another plan, using a wide and long nylon strop which they've passed around the front headstock above the roller, and this will enable the pulling tractor, the hauling tractor, to haul Betsy up the severe incline of the ramp much safely.
So we haven't got a lot of room.
We'll manage. Biggest problem is now it's coming downhill and it's not on the bar.
No.
So you're going to have to hold it up brake, you know what I mean?
And the block.
Yeah.
And the steering as well, going around that tree.
Presumably there's a good brake up flywheel, isn't it?
Yeah, but
you're not in gear, are you? No.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, no.
Went fairly smoothly with that one, didn't it, Alan?
Yeah, a lot more weight in this one, obviously, and these leaves don't help with traction, you know what I mean? Very slippy, so. But you could see it sliding to one side when he went round that corner, and that's what we're frightened of, pulling it at an angle.
It's a different kettle of fish altogether with the roller, isn't it?
Yeah, no, it's going to be. We've got the right man here, Johnson, so. If he can't do it, nobody can.
How do you think that first one went?
Very well. Good as could be expected considering the conditions.
How bad are the conditions?
It's just a bit slippy with all the greenery about and, you know, the dead leaves and everything.
How do you think it's going, Sheila?
Well, they're doing a great job. It's sad under the circumstances, but of course we're in capable hands, and this is the right thing to do. So if this word is pleased about it, yeah, I'm delighted they're being saved.
I noticed that we keep finding bits and pieces that's been nicked off the engine.
Yeah, that tells me I think it's children use somebody coming in. It's people taking things and they don't really know what the value is of stuff, which I'm pleased to finding bits and pieces anyway, obviously. So I'm going to go down for a recce in a minute as well once I've seen the traction engines move.
I can't steer this round here, so we want you to stand on this chain here. Yeah. Hold on to something. Bounce on it. Yeah. Hold me to steer it round this corner. And then you might have to do it on the other side.
Should have hard hat on for that.
And gloves.
The guy on the right hand side is jumping up and down on the steering chains, and this makes it considerably easier to steer. Michael Webber is attempting to steer this in a very short space, very difficult job to do, but with a guy diving up and down on that chain, it just allows the rollers to turn at the angle that is required. And out she comes, and it's a magnificent achievement. Extricating the roller out of the shed was one thing, but the next, of course, is to get it round the great big stubborn ash tree and then to align it at the bottom of the ramp in readiness for hauling it up. The roller was originally named by Fred Allison after his first wife. However, after the divorce, he rechristened it Betsy after his mother, because in Fred's own words, mothers were always constant and utterly reliable. Next to Sheila is Fred's former right-hand man and cohort, great friend of Fred. Hadn't known Fred very long, perhaps 3 or 4 years, but an absolute superb friend to him, and particularly when he were ill. Obviously he's feeling the strain of the day. You can tell in his face that he's a very, very sad man, and rightly so, we all are. When the first engine was pulled out of the shed, it was considered to be an easy task. Now this was something different, attempting the roller, considerably heavier than the light steam tractor, and very numb to negotiate and manoeuvre around the confines of the yard. There were an awkward ash tree to get round, and then the long haul up the ramp before getting out through the gateway onto the road itself. So considerable effort and a certain amount of concern would have to be involved. What you can see is the tractor being pulled back towards the roller due to the large weight of the roller itself. You can see the sadness etched into Michael Webber's face, because Michael has been connected with Betsy since he was a boy of about 12 years of age. You can clearly see that Betsy is not going to give up without a profound battle, making life difficult for the modern tractor, but nevertheless, undeterred, Johnny Johnson and his team have it to do, and they will definitely do it. When Michael Webber arrived in the yard earlier this morning, he attempted to fill Betsy's tender with water, and his idea was then to steam her, and it would have been a magnificent sight. Regrettably, the tubes are badly corroded, and therefore it was unable to carry out the steaming procedure.
So what are they doing here then, Alan?
We're going to tie it round. We've got a bad pulling angle here, so we're going to put it round bottom at three through a snatch block to pull at right angle. We're pulling it sideways, unfortunately. So unfortunately, we have a tree there.
Oh, this way. You at that end.
Having wrapped the steel hawser of the winch round a nearby ash tree so they could get an equal pull, Johnny Johnson commences to pull Betsy, which then starts to move at a reasonable pace up the slope. This is where they've got the job more or less cracked, and having got set up, it'll be now plain sailing to get Betsy up the drive and onto the roadway.
I've been doing winching with my dad over the last 50 years, pulling trees up and the like, so I'm used to using trees as anchors and dead weights and things like that. My dad was one of the old characters like Fred.
How do you think the job's going in general?
The job's going smoothly now. We've got it cracked now. Just getting around that corner was the biggest problem. Not a lot of room to work here. Give him a lift, Alan. Give him a lift to jump them up. Sorry.
Do you think Betsy will ever come back here, Sheila?
No, I think this is the end of an era today. This is the last time we'll ever see Betsy here and the other engine. A very sad occasion for everybody concerned. Just don't like to think about it too much, but as I say, the end of an era.
And as for these people that's been feeding in the yard, what's your feelings on them?
Well, you know what my favourite thing is, don't you? Strutton or a spanner. And if I could find anyone that were coming down here pilfering, I wouldn't hesitate other than come behind them and hit them strongly over the head with a blooming iron spanner. I think they're despicable morons and the scum of humanity.
These two ladies standing by the gateway are the only two witnesses to the scene that was enacted that Boxing Day. At Fred's yard, owing to the geographical location, as it was perched on a steep side of a river valley with one hell of a drop beneath, it was always difficult to make a roadway down to the yard. And Fred, of course, had done his best many years previously, and formulated the ramp. It was a very narrow ramp and a very steep ramp at that. This always led to problems steaming out of the yard. Steam engines were considerably bigger than Fred's roller. Fred, of course, was an expert in handling most steam engines, and in particular his beloved Betsy. And I watched him many times negotiate it in sunshine and in fog and in frosty conditions, bringing the roller out of the shed and of course bringing it from the street down into the yard, down this slippery, relatively hazardous slope. If Fred had got it wrong, which he never did, he could have lost the roller and it would have fell scores of feet right down the hillside. And it was obviously an incredible driver of steam engines, because virtually every engine in this section of South Lancashire at one time or the other ended up in Fred's yard for repairs. We're backing her up for a straight run onto the trailer. It's safe to say that Michael Webber experienced many sleepless nights before coming up the 300 miles to engage in removing these engines to a safe home. Betsy's been on this trailer dozens and dozens of times. She's travelled up and down just about every motorway throughout the length and breadth of Great Britain, and thousands of people have seen the engine and Fred all over the country. You're witnessing the end of an era, for literally hundreds of people still come to the railings of Fred's yard at Radcliffe Road to stare down and to take photographs of the now sad remains of Fred's wonderful workshop and his yard. And it's never going to be the same again, because the engines are now missing. This is a delicate operation. Betsy's being pushed from the rear. The team are putting scotches in to arrest the movement backwards. And there she goes, up onto the bed of the trailer.
Well, I'm a bit choked up really. Human centre is a strange thing. I've known these engines all my life, ever since I was a little lad.
this stage, Alan?
Relieved to get it done, really, but I knew we were going to do it, but yeah. It's a sad there's so much stuff missing off it, like. I mean, what's that for, Alf? That side of it for that? Gear case?
It's one of the guards.
Right.
Off traction engine. But brand new guards that Fred ordered and we went and collected them.
What's your feelings on a day like today, Al?
Very sad, isn't it? Very sad day. Very sad.
For the best though, isn't it really? You can't just leave them.
Oh,
there
it's
to be
best,
salted.
it's best for the engines, there's no doubt about that. No doubt at all. They can't have any more damage. Luckily what's been done up to now is just superficial. Bit of cosmetic stuff. We can't let it go any further. But it's still sad.
And what do you think of people that come down and rob people like this for their livelihoods?
Well, you can't say it on camera, can you? As simple as that. Chop the bloody hands off me.
You really that it's all gone well?
It's all another day's work, isn't it, really? When we're used to the job. I was a bit apprehensive when I first came, when I saw the conditions, you know. But it's all turned out well.
What's your thoughts on the people that's caused this to happen?
Well, they're hooligans, aren't they, at the end of the day? Well, after a fast buck, aren't they? There's no need for them to do it, but I'm afraid the world's full of people like that now, isn't it?
Doing a good job there, mate. Keep it up. I'll help you when you get to the top.
This is the whistle that we took off yesterday to fill the boiler with water, but unfortunately all the tubes were leaking, so we couldn't steam it up to bring it out. It would have been good to steam Fred's roller out for one last time, but unfortunately it's not to be. So I'll just put it back on.
So this really is it, Sheila?
Yeah, this is it. This is the final destination now. No more will we see Betsy and the other engine at Radcliffe Road. Very sad day indeed. I'm really heartbroken about this. Should have been left here. Should have remained here. But for mindless vandalism and stupid, irresponsible people, I think Fred's legacy that lived on at Radcliffe Road for people to enjoy.
Doing a good job there, mate. Keep it up. I'll help you when you get to the top.
All the necessary tackle that belongs to each of the engines is carefully loaded onto the trailer. It saddens me profoundly to see the engine sheds empty and devoid of life. For on numerous occasions when visited in the past, there's always been one engine or the other, or projects of Fred on the go, ensconced within. I can recall numerous occasions when I visited Radcliffe Road and Fred would be ecstatic. He'd be full of glee. He'd have that particular bright and breezy smile that we all remember him for. He was always looking forward to going to rallies. This was his release, his fix. When he got to rallies, he could relax. He was amongst his friends, his beloved steam engines, the public. He loved the sights and the sounds and the smells. People would fire cameras at him. Anybody in his element, it was a joy to behold, and to see his face break into that smile, the same kind of smile when he'd say, for example, at the end of a successful chimney drop, "Did you like that?" And it's that sort of smile I'll always remember him for. The 2 engines have been loaded onto the trailer. Today fills me with a deep sadness, and it truly is the end of an era. But how things have changed, for here we are on a cold, miserable, dank Boxing Day. Fred's 2 treasured engines sat here on the back of a trailer with an uncertain future. There's Fred's loyal friend Alf, bringing what looks to me to be a sheet metal gearing cover, and lovingly laying that on the bed of the trailer to go to its new home. These thieves desecrated Fred's pride and joy, and in particular by stealing from the side the Flintshire County Council plate. This was a plate made of brass, which was like a registration plate, an owner's plate, because originally the steamroller had been owned by Flintshire County Council in North Wales. As often related by Fred, he'd purchased the roller back in the late 60s from a couple of Welsh scrap metal dealers who came from the very north part of Wales. Furthermore, there was a certain amount of damage and evidence of the thieves apparently trying to remove some of the workings and some of the fittings on the other side of the steamroller, and also a certain amount of items were missing from the tractor. Down the yard in the little shed which housed the Bennis Stoker stationary steam engine with a nameplate Caroline named after one of his daughters, this was found to be missing also, and evidently it was sent to a scrap metal yard somewhere in Greater Manchester, and possibly now has either been smelted down or adorns the fireplace of a dealer. You'd consider, wouldn't you, that one of these metal dealers, whoever they may be, would clearly know it belonged to the famous Fred Dibnah and would therefore wish to return it, but regretfully this has not been the case.
So where are they going now, Alan?
Well, they're going back to Preston. I have a couple of steam engines myself. One will live with them, and the other one will live with a colleague of mine who's going to look after it in his premises. Like, you know, I can't get them both in, unfortunately. So, but that's the first time they've been together on a low loader before. So, I mean, Fred wasn't a low loader man to start with, but when he became famous, it was obvious he had to. If he was going to travel from one end of the country to another, he had to use low loaders. So. But that's the first time they've been. Well, I didn't do it all. No, I mean, I was just telling Sheila a funny story that one day he rang me up and it was like a Friday afternoon about 3 o'clock, and he asked me would I take him to Bishop's Castle. And I said I'll go and get me diary. He said, "What do you want your diary for?" I said, "I want to go now." Low loader's turned up for me and he can't get it on. It's too steep a ramp, scary fire. So I had to go there and then and pick him up and spent weekend in Bishop's Castle, which was very pleasant, you know.
Is it tinged with sadness for you that they're leaving the home?
Yeah, I mean, sadness as well that stuff's been robbed off them, you know. There's quite a bit of brasswork and copper robbed off them, but yeah, it's been a sad affair all around, you know.
The main thing is we've all acted fast, haven't we?
Yeah, I mean, it's the most interesting Boxing Day I've ever had, like, you know. I mean, they did ask me to come and do it on Christmas Day, but I drew the line there, but yeah.
Would have been killed, wouldn't we?
I'd have certainly had a divorce on my hands. Yeah.
Well, it's another safe journey.
Yeah, thanks very much. Thanks for your help, anyhow.
You know, I can't believe how professionally and well the job is.
Well, that's down to Johnson's. That I'm only transporting them, but he's the man who's pulled them out for us, you know. So it's Johnson's are the people. So,
did a good job.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
So here we are at the end of a day that I thought I'd never see in my lifetime. Fred's 2 engines leaving their home for the very last time. particularly like to thank Michael Webber for his input involving hundreds of telephone calls and thereby ensuring that what you see today went along smoothly. I'd like to thank Johnny Johnson and his team from the banks near Southport for giving up the Boxing Day and carrying out this procedure with all their profound expertise. We wish Alan Atkinson all the very best and trust that everything will work out well in the future.
Weathering's Country Pottery near Penrith still uses time-honoured methods and techniques to produce a wide variety of handmade pottery. It also has its own industrial heritage museum, and in September 1995, steeplejack and steam engineer Fred Dibnah, having restored the old steam machinery to full working order, performed the grand steam opening.
On behalf of Weathering's Pottery, I'd like to thank you all for being here today and for joining in the celebration of the restoration of the steam to the engine and to the plunger. We've got Fred here, who's been working since March on the project, and I'd like to just hand over to Fred, who'd like to say a few words now.
Won't be many words, I can tell you. Believe it or not, I'm unbelievably nervous. What's up? Eh? Hello. This is Roger. All as I can say really is I've really enjoyed restoring this piece of tattle. You know, it's one of the best jobs, in my opinion, I've ever done in all my career as being self-employed. You know, and it does run, I can assure you that. It'll never fly, but it runs. The thing is, I'd also like to wish Mr. Dodds every success in his projects here, you know, and I think it will be a success ultimately and eventually, because things like this go by people telling other people how nice it is, you see, and I don't think I'll mind here anymore. I think I shall pull the string and hopefully the curtain will fall down. Hopefully. So here we go. Right, well then Roger. Fred,
on behalf of everybody here, we've got a little thank you for you.
Oh,
Well, is Sue here? Where's Sue?
oh, where's she gone? It revolves. It's good with the clay.
This is the plunger, a device into which weathered clay and water are mixed to produce a smooth slurry, from which ultimately a suitably manageable clay is formed to make the pots. The beam of the plunger is turned by a crown wheel and pinion driven by shafting and a bell from the steam engine in the adjacent steam house. The single-cylinder horizontal engine, made at the turn of the century by W.C. Holmes of Huddersfield, was installed about 1970 and replaced an earlier, larger engine. Until the recent renovation by Fred Dibnah, the engine had been out of use for quite a number of years. The steam to drive the engine is produced by this vertical boiler. The fuel now being burned is wood, but originally coal was used, which was also the fuel for the pottery's beehive kiln. But the coal deliveries ceased when the local railway line closed in the 1960s, and the kiln could no longer be used. Meantime, Fred takes time to sign a few autographs, a result of his celebrity status following his popular series of programmes on television.
Yeah, we're not going to want to find it. You can only do it so far, you know, then it's... Oh yeah, the end result.
Fred's wife Sue is kept busy with visitors, purchasing mementos of the day. A pint of local ale is very welcome. It's thirsty work signing autographs. Fred's son Jack helps to keep the boiler fed. And youngest son Roger assists the driver of the miniature railway to top up the loco's water tank. One day, I suspect Roger will be a steam engine driver too. Weatheriggs is a working pottery, and visitors can view the craftsmen at their work. As well as the steam plant, the Heritage Museum includes the old beehive kiln. Visitors can examine the interior of the structure to see how the pots were stacked, ready for firing at a temperature of 1000 degrees centigrade. So now with steam, and thanks to Fred Dibnah, we can enjoy the sight and sound of a working blunger at Weatheriggs Country Pottery.
It's always a picturesque sight to see traction engines on the road. Fred often takes his 1912 Aveling and Porter road roller to traction engine rallies and is today on his way to Astle Park for the annual steam rally and get-together. Fred's road roller was originally named Alison after Fred's first wife, but following their divorce, the engine has been renamed Betsy after his mother because Fred feels mothers are more constant and reliable. Steam traction engines have to make regular stops to fill their water tanks. Many drivers, as they travel along, stop to fill up with water at fire hydrants, which are found along the roadside.
Okay then, Fred, turn it on. Stiff, isn't it?
It is a stiff one, isn't it?
I think it's coming down the pipe now. We'll soon be with you.
There's a good kink in it there. Here she comes.
Pressure can't be very great, or
Here she comes.
It would fire through, isn't it?
I can a bit faster than that.
To take water this way is technically illegal. But Fred considers he's doing a public service by testing the hydrant and unblocking it. As he explains,
You're doing the local water authority a service, and the fire brigade as well, because imagine if your house were over there and sometimes these hydrants are full up to the top with muck, you know, and when we stop, we've got to dig all the muck out before we can get some water out of it. And if your house were burning down day after, and the fire, you know, the fire brigade arrived and we hadn't stopped there before, there were precious minutes wasted when all your valuables were being melted down, you see. The thing is, I can't see why anybody should argue, you know, about us just pinching a few gallons of water. I mean, we're very good for the tourist trade as well. And also, sort of, you know, the lad who just gone by with his engine, he were in the middle of Lancaster one day and he snapped one open and top come off. And it was belting up in the sky about 20 feet, you know, and so water everywhere. Sent him a bill for 20 quid, I think, or something. Safely tested, and we'll send our report to the fire brigade. Right, take off.
Fred loves an excuse to take his traction engine out on the road and enjoys the journey to the rally as much as the rally itself. He bought his Aveling and Porter steamroller in 1966 from a Welsh scrap merchant for £175. It weighs 13 tonnes and took many years to restore to its former glory. There are a great many traction engines and exhibits at Astle Park this year, and whenever you see Fred, he's usually accompanied by his young son Jack. Already Jack is showing a keen interest in steam engines, and perhaps with a little prompting from his father, will follow in his footsteps.
Spoke riveting was done hot. It was done by hand. I didn't use a power tool.
No.
Used a big hammer. But it was a job. Right. I must have chose one of the hottest days of the summer to do it last year as well.
Oh, it's not much fun, is it? The riveting job.
No, it ain't.
And firebox, is that all, done like a proper one,
No, it's welded. The whole boiler's welded. And the rivets that you can see on the side there, they are dummies just for the effect.
Yeah, they've gone a bit weird, haven't they, with boiler job, haven't they?
Well, it's the insurance. It's the insurance, that's it. All the rivets around the front of the engine, they're all operational. Yeah. And they were done hot as well.
Cylinder blocks a bonny job, How did you manage that?
Well, it was a casting that was available, so I didn't have to do the casting. But some of the machining I could do, some of it I couldn't. So I've got a friendly engineering company to do some of the big machining for me. There's plenty of them about.
There is. Well, when they see what you're doing, they're quite happy to give you a lift a lot of them.
That's right. Oh yeah.
I've experienced that lots of times with my little efforts,
And I think it's your approach to people as well. If you approach them in the right manner and don't give them any flannel, they tend to respond to you.
What you've got, I made a fatal mistake a week or two back. I had gear selector off my tractor.
Aye.
And I thought I'll get the spindles metal sprayed.
Yes.
And I walked in with it under my arm, and they were having the brew, and the bloke who were in charge, he said, that looks like an expensive job. And I said, well, I've no bloody money, And then he went off me after that.
Aye, well, they do that. They either go that way, or you go in, if you go in with the wad, sometimes that works.
Easy done. He's a good singer, isn't he? Yeah, he's quite a boy, a bit of a wisecracker. I'm getting too old for it, really, you know. It's sort of the first 20 years are the worst. Such dirty things and all, and spew muck everywhere off. As soon as you finish cleaning it, it's as bad again after the first journey.
So why do you do it then?
I don't like it. It's sort of a love-hate relationship.
During the night there's been persistent rain, which has made the ground quite muddy and slippery. These are not ideal conditions for manoeuvring a steamroller out of the field, but Fred, with his usual confidence, manages to get Betsy rolling to start his long journey back to Bolton.
Well, basically this is sort of a packing that keeps the ladder off the wall of the chimney, so there's room for your boots to go through, you know, on the rungs of the ladder. There's two schools of thought in this. One that, tying them on with string is time consuming and all that, which it is. But the thing is, when it's being pulled up the side of the chimney, by my mate here, and it bangs against something, it only busts the string, you know. Like the other school of thought is have a metal construction that's bolted to the ladder, which when that hits an iron band or something like that, it busts the bloody ladder, you see. String is cheaper than brand new ladders. So, but it does take a bit of time to tie them all on. Yeah, that's the only problem. Right. It's going to be just underneath the third rung, so there's room for your boots. They've just got to be just underneath the third rung, so there's room for your boots there. If you tie it on there, it's amazing how it gets in the way. It's in the wrong shop because there's no room for your feet. Yeah, basically that piece of wood is just to put there to hold the ladder off the wall. Here we are drilling the first hole in which there is an hole actually there that's just been pointed up, to knock in the first dog, which will be the hole fast at the base of the first ladder, as you might say. Then goes the plugwood, which, as you can see, it doesn't go in very far, but it's quite far enough, it's quite safe. And that's what's termed as a dog. Then I'm going to knock in now. And the next stage is to the piece of rope. It's called a lashing, and it's a piece of rope about 5 foot long with a loop spliced on one end, as you can see. The next stage is to prop up a ladder and climb up it as though you were going up to clean the bedroom window. And then about 5 feet from the top of that ladder, you drill another hole, but in our case the hole's already there. You drill another hole as plumb and straight above the one below as you can get it, and insert another piece of plugwood and another dog. As you get a bit higher up, the holes have a tendency to get a bit deeper. I think it's called fear. Here you see the first ladder is in position, and I'm about to tie it onto the bottom dog, or the bottom holdfast, which you know, that's where the beer belly comes in handy. It's sort of round the hook, round the side of the cheek of the ladder, under the rung, round the hook, round the other cheek of the ladder, round the rung, and then back round the rung below, and a 12-inch on, and that's got it fast. It will not come off. And the thing to do also is use as much of the rope up as you can, because in a gale the ends start to blow about, and the whipping comes off the end of the rope, and then you've got one with like a cat o' nine tails end on it, you know, blowing about in the wind. That is the pulley wheel to pull up the next ladder. Here the next operation is to tie the ladder to the top dog, or the top holdfast that you've just knocked in, without tying it to the haulage rope, you know, because you sometimes, if you're not paying attention or you're trying to talk to somebody who's mithering you on the floor, you end up lapping it round. You see how easy it would be to lap it round the haulage rope. Yeah, that's it. That is now, the bottom ladder is now firmly fixed and as good as it'll ever be to the wall of the chimney. And the next operation is to climb up to the top of that ladder and sit astride the top iron rung and reach up as far as you can and drill another hole in the brickwork, which of course it's very easy for me here, because having done this thing about 7 times before and used exactly the same holes every time, I know exactly how far I'm reaching and where I'm going, and it's quite an easy operation to keep the whole stack of ladders in a very straight line. If you're putting them up and you wander towards one side, when you're putting the staging up at the top and you've got one ladder that's maybe 2 foot gone a bit sideways, and say the other one's gone the other way, it looks rather an erratic effort at the top. You know, everything's out of line and out of square. Now we've drilled the hole approximately 5 feet above the top of the bottom ladder and hooked on the pulley wheel. Now this is where the tricky bit comes in. The second ladder is tied on approximately 9 rungs from the top, which is about midway. And of course, when it's being pulled up by the labourer or the man down below, we lose more or less half a ladder of a lap, which you'll see the reason for this shortly. The thing is, as that ladder comes up, or the second ladder comes up, on the bottom rung of it, there are 2 lashings, one of which I'm using now to tie the bottom rung to the nearest corresponding rung of the ladder that's stuck to the wall. I've got the other lashing round my neck, and the 2 steeplejack hooks which have come up with it are stuck in my belt. Now, that's a secondary sort of safety precaution, the one with just a 12-inch round the side, just in case that hook there that I've got my hand on, or the one that the pulley's on, if that happened to come out, I'd still be in with a chance, you know. The ladder would still be connected with 2 hooks to the bottom one. As you can see, it's slightly precarious there how it shakes about, but once you've lashed it to that top hook, which is 5 foot above the bottom ladder, you've only got about 6 rungs above that are standing in free space, or what you might call unconnected to the chimney. It is now possible to unhook the pulley wheel and carry it up the back side of the ladder and hook it on the top iron rung, while you use one of the dogs that's stuck in your belt to, you know, get another purchase 5 foot higher up still, you see. Once you've drilled that hole and put the dog in, you can lift up the pulley wheel onto the dog, which of course one end of the rope is still attached to the ladder that you were sat on. And then you'll see in a minute where when I come down and untie that ladder, my man at the bottom pulls, and up goes the whole 21 pins of the ladder onto the top of the bottom ladder, which sounds unbelievably complicated, but it is quite a simple operation, really. In fact, it's so simple you can do on a good chimney on a good day where it isn't windy and you don't manage to thump the hell out your hand with the hammer. Like, you know, I mean, if you miss with the hammer, it's rather painful. There goes the pulley wheel. Down the ladder. Untie the lashing at the top that's holding the top of the ladder. Now it all comes loose and flops about in the wind. That's the dodgy bit when it's very windy and you're 3/4 of the way up and the wind's trying to snap the ladder off sideways. It's quite exciting. And there's the secondary lashing on the side, and then finally the one at the bottom. When you've released it at the bottom, it's at the mercy of the man on the floor and the wind. Sometimes it's rather awkward when it's very windy and the ladders start twisting round the rope, you know, that's pulling the thing up. Now it's now in the right position for fixing onto the sockets at the bottom, and of course you see how close to the top hook you know, it's being held against the wall by the man on the floor. Very important that the man on the floor is you've got his whole concentration all the time, you know. That's why it's better using an older man than a younger man who has a tendency to wander off looking at ladies' skirts and things like that. Because if he disappears, you fall off. That's the second ladder up, and that's what it's all about. Well, almost up. This method of laddering factory chimneys is quite a recent sort of invention, you know, like 1870s period. A bit before then, they actually flew kites to get string across the tops of chimneys, you know, a right weird situation. I think when they were, you know, the beginning of the Industrial Revolution, when they started to erect chimney stacks, nobody gave it a great deal of thought as to how they were going to get up there to repair the things, because of course they were all built from the inside, more or less right from the beginning of building fairly large ones to building the really monstrous things that there are today at power stations. Like the early ones, you know, 1820s, were only like 60 and 50 feet high. And of course, you know, they could build them with a conventional scaffold round the outside because they were of no great girth, you know. To circumnavigate the wall of that chimney, which might be 60 odd feet circumference with scaffolding, is going to cost a heck of a lot of money, you know. That's why I think steeplejacks have still can still earn a crust of bread, you know. It is one of the good and reliable ways of getting up there, you know. Basically, having got the second ladder up, you've more or less conquered it in a way, how you actually do the job. The thing is, you just keep repeating the process, 9 rungs from the top, 2 lashings on the bottom and 2 dogs, and up it comes, and all as you're up there with is your hammer, your chisel, the plug wood, and the end of the pulley wheel and the rope. The important thing not to do is let the rope run through the block and go tumbling down, which means that you've got to come down and get the end of the rope and carry the thing up, which 200 foot of hemp rope is fairly heavy, and by the time you've got back to the top with it, you're getting a bit out of breath. The other thing is, the higher up you get and the harder it gets, you know, because of course the guy at the bottom has got to pull the ladder up further and you've got to send the end of the rope down further. You know, so the progression towards the top as you get higher, it slows down a bit. This basically is an inspection to give a quote for any forthcoming repairs that need sorting out. Over the years, the first job I ever did were above the collar, the 10 feet of brickwork above the collar. I put some new iron bands round and pointed it all, and a new lightning conductor on. Then on subsequent visits, I pointed all the panel work round the top 30 feet. And now from the sailing course below that to below the green and white banded area of tile bricks, it's badly in need of pointing, so I'm going to give them an estimate to do that. That's a bit of old-time steeplejack's plugwood, you know. Him who knocked that in there will be dead and gone, without a doubt. Quite rotten, you know. These patches I pointed up, they were some very poor quality steeplejacks damaged the brickwork, you know. Didn't know how to work an hammer and chisel. It's always policy to leave the ladders there until you've come to the financial arrangement with the management about whether they're going to have it done or not, which saves you having to put the ladders up again. The thing is that having secured the contract, if we're going to do it, we've then got to put what's termed as a staging round the top. You hear it how it's addled hollow, you know. It's a shame, really. Getting near the top, it's always like that, you know. I think this time a few iron bands might be called for, you know, to screw it together a bit. A bit of me pointing come out up there on them big copings. Can you see it? 6 inches off the lightning conductor. Not bad that though, it's a long time since I did it. Some of them are loose. it's a trifle huddled around that area. I don't think the full 9-inch headers, they're only halves, you know. Well, an header is a brick on end, like that should be. But I don't think it is. They wouldn't sound as hollow if it were a full 9-inch brick going in. It's only half of one, I think. I'm only surmising. These are my dog holes that support my scaffold when I'm putting the scaffolding up. when you sat on top of there, like king of the castle, the view used to be quite interesting in this area. There were numerous collieries, the last of which disappeared a few months ago, and lots of mill chimneys, and I think you can see about 4 left now out of all of them, out of dozens and dozens. Not very far away there's the parish church of Atherton, which has got a distinct list on it through the mining subsidence. Well, that's it now. We've nearly conquered it. The north face of the Eiger.
Now, I've heard a story about you and a puddle. Is that true?
Me and a what?
A puddle.
A puddle?
A big puddle.
A big
Fell into a big puddle?
What?
While you were blowing up a chimney?
Oh, yeah, about nearly dying. Yeah, it wasn't say it was a bloody puddle, yeah. There were an hole in the floor.
They told me it was a puddle.
No, it isn't. No, I'll tell you this story. It's quite frightening, really. This chimney stack, I've nearly come to dying twice in all my 20 odd years of, nearly 30 years of climbing up chimneys. And this chimney stack, when we went to look at it, it was completely surrounded at the bottom with shrubbery, the pussy willow trees and blackberry bushes lapped all around it, and you couldn't really get near it. Anyway, once we bloody acted all the undergrowth down, we got to the bottom of the chimney, and when you look through the flue hole, that's where the smoke used to go into it. All round the inside at the bottom, it was full of water in bottom, like a well.
Puddle.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, all the brickwork were eroded away, and the wall had gone from like 2'6" thick down to 9 inches. It had gone like from that thick of a chimney, to 9 inches. So that's a hell of a lot of bloody weight pressing on this 9-inch wall all the way around bottom. And of course, the thing was about 160 feet high, and what I've got to worry about is already on the grass in what had been all the undergrowth around the bottom, there were faces off bricks, with the pressure downwards, boom, it had blown bits off the outside, you see. And you think, bloody hell, there's the chimney standing there like this. If I start to chop an hole in this side, the pressure on the brickwork around the back will become greater and greater as you are cutting and putting your props in. It's still going a lot more weight on back than there is on the timber, you see. And it's getting to a stage where I'm thinking, well, even though there were miles off halfway mark, it's so weak down below in the water that it's going to go, it's going to crunch, crunch the bricks up that I've not cut out, you see. So the old boy who were helping me, he was like coming up to 70, and I can run a lot faster than him. And so I said to him, Luke,
did you send him in there?
God, no, did I bugger it? No. I said to him, Luke, Gordon, you go over there and get out where work compressor is, and get about 3 lines of bloody pipe on compressor, because I didn't know which way we're going to go, All that I knew, you're going to run, but it's going to be hard to run. The thing is, on this side, there were a brick kiln with trees 6 inches diameter growing on top of it, so you could tell it hadn't been a brick kiln for the last bloody 40 years, That side of it, where the clay pit had been, there were a big fence up that had red skull and crossbone signs all around top of it, because they filled it up with some highly toxic stuff and put some topsoil on, and they'd surrounded it with this bloody oasis kept sinking in it and all, donkey plonkers. So I couldn't run that way, I couldn't climb on the brick kiln. That way were impenetrable bloody blackberry bushes and all that. Behind it were the scrapyard from a forge, all lumps of iron and piles of cinders and all sorts of bloody rubbish in way. So it's a bit worrying, which way you're going to run if it's heading for you, sort of thing. The thing is that I'm stood round this side and the bonfire's in front, and we lit the fire round here. And I said to Gordon, you bugger off over there, and I'll light the fire here, and I'll keep chiselling while it's advancing round this way, the fire. And it had got to a stage where the heat of the fire were burning my leg, you know, still bloody drilling away at the brickwork. And when it's going to go, there's big vertical cracks appear in the masonry, you know, in the brickwork.
And you can see them?
Yeah, oh, you put chisel on wall and just pull trigger, bang, once, and this crack will start, you know, instead of, if it were a garden wall, you'd knock a quarter of a brick out, like, well, these are going like 3 feet long right upside a chimney, you know, and it's going, you know, like, it's going to go, you know, so, and I backed up and fell down this bloody hole 4 foot deep, you know, sort of full of water, and what it were like the chimney were there and the brick kiln were here, like I said, the flue went underground, and it was one of these types of flues that went right round the bottom of the chimney and went in through slits, you see. And of course, all that had collapsed, so we could see inside where the water were. But back here, it was still a big arch underground. But kids had like caved in the top, only about 8 feet from the bottom of the chimney. And all as it appeared to be on the floor were like a little puddle of water full of dead leaves and twigs and sticks about 3 inches deep. There was that much greenery on top of it, you couldn't tell how deep it was.
How'd you get out?
Well, that's it. I still don't bloody know to this day. The thing is that I went down this hole and I felt my legs going like that in the arch inside, you know. I thought, where the bloody hell am I going, you know? So I'm up to here in the bloody water, the jackhammer over my head, you know, they're only like little. Oh yeah, still there with rubber pipe on, yeah. Like a bloody gun, you know. Yeah, but only little ones, you know, like a PC9 is about, the body's about that big and the chisel's about that long. So, you know, you can hold one up pretty easy. But I'd say about 30 odd pound of iron altogether, you know. But I'm there with this and I'm stuck down the hole and the bloody cracks are coming in the chimney, violent in front of me, 8 feet away from here to that bloody can there. I thought, Christ, I'm going to die, you know. And I don't know how I come out that hole, come out like one of them bloody torpedoes out of a submarine, you know. One of them rockets, you know, with a stream of water leaving me as I come out. And I landed on terra firma and I legged it down. I never saw a chimney fall down, you know, it just boom, I heard the roar behind me. And we went back after and the bloody hole had gone, you know. If I'd like demobilised myself down the hole, it would just have been a rubber pipe going across the ground and, you know, just turning down under all this brick, you know. Bloody dead and gone, like, yeah. But I made it, I got out of the hole, you know. Yeah, I don't know how I did, you know.
The first chimney I ever saw him drop, it had to be absolutely accurate because there was no more than about 50 feet between the mill wall and a wall up the roadside, and it had to go in that 50 feet, and of course it did. There was no problem. But when you think about the technique, it's just a case of cutting out half the chimney, and that is the way that it will go. It won't deviate much from that. The biggest risk about when the chimney actually falls is that the condition of the remaining brickwork, if that's a little bit unsound, it might kick backwards a little bit and leave you a pile of brickwork just behind where the chimney stood. That's got to be guarded against as well. But the chimney always goes literally within a few feet. He could put a marker out and he would always demolish the marker. The chimney represented the age at which he was, like he many times used to say, he was born 70 years too late. A smoking chimney represented industry as far as Fred was concerned. Now once it stopped smoking, then of course its days were numbered, and he would have much preferred to be called in to give it a coat of overhaul or a coat of looking at for the purpose of bringing it back to life with something going on down below. But that wasn't to be, of course. I mean, he realised that the chimneys, to use his phrase, that used to stand up like blades of grass all over Bolton and lots of other industrial towns in Lancashire, were obviously being thinned down as the years went by, and he realised that he might as well offer the service of demolishing them, because if he didn't, somebody else would.
It's now time to build a bonfire. Where's these bloody rubber tyres, you know? Oh, they're here, aren't they? Yeah.
I just happened to go around one day, 3 years, just about 3 years before his death. He said, I've had a bit of bad news. I said, oh, what's up? He said, they'd confirmed cancer with me. I said, get away. I said, well, you feeling all right? He said, oh, I'm feeling fine, yeah. But he said, I had this bit of a kidney trouble, and he said he sent for me and investigated it, and they decided one kidney had failed and it had to come out. So he sort of told them to get on with it and get it out, and he said they sent it away for examination and came back and said we're sorry but it's affected, we'll have to do a full body scan, which they did, and they found it in other places as well. I said, oh well, that's not so good. I said, how long have they give you? He said 12 months. I said, you must be joking. He said, no, that's all they've given me. I said, well, you'll have to, I said, you've got this tractor to finish then. I said, it doesn't give you long, does it? So he said, no, I must be getting on with it. But I never saw him what I would call depressed. Now, that's not to say that he wouldn't be depressed, because in his quieter times at home, when he wasn't surrounded by his friends and with a load of work to be done, obviously it would get anybody down, and I'm sure it did. He'd be no different from anybody else as regards that. But the bit I saw of him, and when he was pressing on with his tractor with the aid of a few friends, he was quite happy to get on with the job. He knew it had to be done, and indeed it was done. He'd been working on it for 27 years, and when he was only given 12 months of age, he didn't finish it inside the 12 months, but I'm quite convinced that the work he did on that tractor kept him going. It kept his spirits up, because he knew it had to be finished, and I think that's largely responsible for the extra 2 years that he managed to persuade his body to keep going after the 12 months that the doctors had given.
I first met Fred Dibnah when we bought, he'd got a road roller, and I bought a road roller, both derelict, and we were both doing them up. We were young, we had young families, and it was a kind of a new adventure for us, really. And he was in about the same position as I was. He was a steeplechase, I was a farmer. And I met him in that respect, and we used to go to local rallies and things like that. And the point about Fred was, in those very early days, you could recognise him even then, that he had a story to tell. He had a wonderful way of telling a story. And people just flocked around him to hear him talk. And I mean, of course, he liked a pint or two.
Yeah.
And the more pints he had, the better
talked.
he talked, really. And that's how I remember him, really. Wonderful stories. I mean, I wish, and the memory that he had, because he could remember all sorts of things, couldn't he?
Yeah,
really? I mean, I'm struggling now to think of some of the things that he, that he found quite natural.
Yeah, he didn't get excited or anything over it, did he?
Nothing excited him. I mean, if you've seen him, going up chimneys. I mean, I've seen him. I always remember a time in Lee, and he was working on the church steeple, and there was a pub across the road. Can't remember what the name of the pub was. It's gone now. But I remember going in there, and because he was working there, and he'd had 7 or 8 pints, and he went up this steeple afterwards. I mean, I could barely get home, never mind what the bloody steeple.
Yeah.
Were you surprised by the number of people that actually turned up on the day?
Yeah, I wouldn't have missed it for anything. Yeah.
No, it was magnificent.
It was, wasn't it?
It was like a national heritage thing. I mean, there was people there that, I mean, even the side streets were blocked with people. Offices had shut. I mean, we saw it all because we went through on the engines, didn't we?
Yeah, because it just that much higher up. Bus stations stopped, the fire stations
offices stopped, people came out of offices. I think the thing that brought a lump to my throat was when we went past the fire station, and they'd all the appliances on a rainy day lined up on the front, and all the firemen, and I don't think it was just the current
watch.
The
office were in as well, office were in the West.
And they were all stood in their uniforms to attention. And it was quite moving, that really.
It was,
yeah. But the number of people that walked from the church to the cemetery afterwards in pouring rain.
Yeah,
I mean,
well, both ways, wasn't it?
Yeah, a miserable day. Sue converted him, really, or changed him from smoking very heavily and drinking very heavily to the man we saw in this last few years on TV and so on, where he had all this immense knowledge of engineering and industrial archaeology, but in And he developed that himself.
Yeah.
Because that didn't come out in his early days. He just had a way of talking in his early days, of telling the story. A born storyteller, really. This knowledge came later on in life
it was natural,
as he matured. Yeah.
I always remember him coming down on his road roller for the weekend. It was one of the few steam engines that we managed to invite to the event, and my memories probably of that event were when the local hostelry was the pub on the road outside the pit, and the police at that time had put double yellow lines down outside, and Fred likes a drink, obviously, as most people do, and he went in to participate and have a pint of his favourite drink, a pint of Guinness, and we pointed out very diplomatically that he'd left his roller on the double yellow lines outside. He might experience problems with the local bobby. He didn't seem very worried about that, because his quip was to say, well, I'm sure the police will find it very difficult to move with the weight of the roller, so I think we can leave it there quite safely. There were so many people there waiting for the funeral to start. There was the police, and then the band, and everything had to be organised by Howes, the funeral directors, who made an excellent job of it. And the procession set off at about 11 o'clock in a very dignified manner, making its way down to the parish church in Bolton. Both his sons were driving the two steam engines. One was driving Betsy, and one was driving the other new engine that he'd recently finished this last year. And both of those, it was excellent to see them on the day at the helm on the engines, playing such a part in the day. It must have been a heart-rendering day for them, to say the least. The guy was such a memorable character. There'll never be another one like him, and he will be very, very, very sadly missed.
Fred's birthday, our local rally's in May, and Fred celebrated his birthday around the May time. I'm not exactly sure what date his birthday was, but I know that it was close to the Cavalcade Rally, because it had been organised by the powers that be that he were going to have a birthday party in the hotel called the Rilton in Rushden. And he'd been at the rally all day, signing autographs and being the celebrity. But he hadn't really had a chance to sort of have a beer with the engine men, and before he could, he were whisked off in a car and took back to the hotel. And they poshed him up, and the press were informed of Fred's birthday party in the Rilton, and we're going to have a few special guests, and someone had baked a cake, and that was the sort of programme for the evening for him. But I don't think anybody had consulted Fred, because he sort of didn't like the sound of this. How do we know this? Well, because later on that evening, an old friend of mine was driving back to the rally field, and he saw a familiar figure walking from the Rilton in Rushden through Higham Ferrers in the direction of the rally field. So he pulls over, he says, Fred, he says, where are you going? He says, oh, I'm going back to the rally. He says, oh, he says, I thought you were going to your birthday party. Oh, he says, I didn't fancy that. He says, all the press and all that. He says, so I want a beer with the lads. So he got in this bloke's car and they took him back to the rally field. Meanwhile, at the hotel, everybody's going like balmy looking for him. Oh, where's Fred gone? Oh, he must be in his room. We'll go up and check and all that. And Fred's gone. The next thing, his phone's going, oh, he says, I remembered something I had to do to the engine. And he's not doing nothing to the engine at all. He was standing in the bar with his mates enjoying a pint of beer. And that was the real Fred. He didn't need a tie to make him popular. He didn't need to be in a hotel with all the posh people and the press. He could be himself when he got the chance, and just stand in a group of chaps all wearing boiler suits, all covered in soot, having enjoyed a good day's steaming on a rally, I don't think he were ever happier than when he was in that sort of situation, with his hands all covered in muck and a big beaming smile on his face and a pint in his hand. I think I shall remember Fred, as I think most of the engine men will remember Fred, as a true character with a love of steam, who not only spread the love of steam amongst those who were already converted, but who was able to bring it to the masses, to give an explanation to those who previously did not understand why we did it, as to what a hobby and a lifestyle of steam and traction engine rallies is all about. He was, I think, probably the one most important character as far as the steam rally movement went, presenting it to the wider world. Without the likes of Fred, I don't think the traction engines would be still very well known. I think when people said the word steam engine, they would still think only of railways. Fred opened up that world, and since then there's been several other programs with doing up old vehicles and traction engines and that, but I don't think it would have come to the attention of the people in the same way if Fred hadn't been there to introduce it to them. So yeah, I remember Fred not only as a great character, a good friend and a companion in the beer tent, but also as a man who put traction engine rallies on the map.
This chimney, it once belonged to a paper mill, but according to neighbours round here at the older end, like, you know, it shut in 1920s and then became various other things, you know, afterwards. But I often wonder when I were a little lad why this chimney were always bright red and you know, never black like all the other ones round here. This is when this is gone, there's only one more left in this town. When it's gone, this. Yeah, it is a grand example of a sort of factory chimney, you know. It's built out of Accrington bricks and there's not a crack in it. Nothing wrong with it, you know. It's a pity you can't pick them up and take them around and sell them, you know. You know, one or two people who buy this, but alas, you can't move them around, you know. Once they're on the floor, they're a bit of a mess, aren't they? There's not a lot left of the works, is there, you know. They had one of them there fires and it's disappeared completely. So chimney were no good before. The only reason it stayed here was because it were in such an awkward place. Now is the opportunity to get rid of it, you know, and then they can have a fresh start on this very valuable site.
When we're not
sat on tops of chimneys, you know, we spend a great deal of time knocking the things down, and basically here what we're doing today is we've removed a section of the brickwork from the base of the chimney stack, and we're replacing that with wooden props and wedges and cap pieces, as you can see. And then when we've removed the remainder of the brickwork, basically we set fire to the timber, and down comes the chimney stack. This method really in confined places compares very favourably with the dynamite men, because you don't get bricks blowing out all over the neighbourhood.
Over there, where it's going to go is, if anywhere, slightly that way.
How long will it take from once you set fire?
Once I set fire to this, I would think quarter of an hour, 20 minutes. Something like that. Where's the time going anyway? Right, well, action stations.
Like, the hardest thing really is controlling the crowd, you know, because in these places, as you can see around here, there's walls sticking up and all sorts of things, and people have a nasty habit of just bobbing up from behind a wall when the thing's about to fall down, which is a bit nasty. You see, when you blow things up, it's like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, boom, and it's all over with. Whereas here, with like 20 minutes of nerve-wracking thought before the thing actually falls over. Here, we're having a bit of bother getting the fire going. So you need a bit of a torch of this nature to, you know, get the wood and all the diesel oil and the rags going really good, because you've got to get it burning fairly uniformly across the front of the chimney stack. Once you have lit it, it's out of your hands then. It's in the hands of that guy upstairs, you know. Not a lot of room here, as you can see. We were about 4 feet off one wall, and we'd knocked a hole through a wall to fire the chimney through the hole. It went very well, actually. We didn't even knock any of the remainder of the walls down. All the wood were wet, it were being particularly stubborn that day, you know. As a rule, it's generally blazing away by now. We didn't do too well, you know. The whole place had burned down, the works, and the fire brigade had done the bit wetting all the wood through. There we go, it's taking over now quite well.
Going.
As a rule, it's about quarter of an hour to 20 minutes, I think. I think that one weren't very far out on that. Bush, another one gone.
Well, indeed, I'm quite pleased, because where the flue hole were, where the smoke went in, you see, it were like sort of 2 foot of brickwork missing, which we could have done with.
Yeah.
And of course, we propped that up with a big bark of timber, and did you see how it twisted round when it went? You know,
Oh yeah, so
it actually rolled round on that piece of wood, you know, stood on a big pin, as you might say.
I often do jobs for my friends on their engines when they're a bit stuck, and here we're retubing this little steam tractor in readiness for a trip over the mountains into Yorkshire for the Manchester to Harrogate vintage vehicle run next weekend, and I think it's first time that a traction engine's ever done it. So I've got to get it right for next Friday, and here we are expanding the tubes, which the thing that we stick down the end is the piece of iron termed as the dolly. The boiler tubes are always bigger at the front end than the back end, There's Neil putting the dolly back in the fire. Now there's my mate Neil taking the burrs off the end of the tube so they go down the hole a lot easier. You know, it's amazing if you just have a little bit of a burr on the end and the tube's a good fit in the hole, it won't go in. So that takes care of that. There's the shaft going round and all the belts flapping in the wind. And there's the engine that we've got to get ready for Friday. There are 32 inch and 3/4 outside diameter tubes to stick in it. I think here on the lathe we're actually making a new drift to knock the things in with, you know, because you down at the end with an hammer, it'll mess them up, you know, burr them over and make a bit of a mess of them. On our steam driven lathe. There's not many people got a steam driven lathe in this day and age. What we're doing now really is knocking the tubes in and, you know, sort of ready to do the expanding. And they're a little bit tight in firebox, so it's better being tight than slack, because when we put the tube expanders in and they start, you know, if a lot of tube starts going round, you're in trouble, like. But there's no way these are going to go round because they're just that nice, got a nice grip in the tube, in the firebox end. And all. In fact, they're a good fit in every end, you know, the expanding we did at the front is also a good fit, you know. Normally you stick them up the hole and you can waggle them about, sort of style. We've just, what you might call, got it right, you know, there's no daylight showing. You can generally tell if you put a lamp inside, you can see chinks of you know, light shining through the gap. I presume we've got some expanders. Yeah, we've got some expanders. Yeah. A bit of a crude method, but it works. You get a bit tired after you've lifted that up half a day. Today's the big day when we're going to take the engine back to its rightful owner, who lives about 6 or 7 miles down the road, you know. So we're now going to be shortly lighting the fire and going round with the oil can and getting it all ready for the journey. The first move is to drag it out the shed, so because we used to have a chimney on the roof, but it fell down, so we don't want to fill the shed up with smoke. So we'll drag it outside and light the fire. With our Land Rover, our trusty servant. It's only a teeny engine, so the Land Rover will pull it quite easily, and it's a bit of a downhill out of the shed anyway, so it ain't too bad. Here we are. Get the fire lit. There we are. I think it's an Eveling Porter tractor which were built about I think in 1919 or 1920. I remember the guy buying it, and I helped him to put a new firebox in it and a new front tube plate, and made a new tender, and he's done quite a lot of work on it. It's a very good engine now, it goes very fast. A racing machine. There's young Jack enjoying himself. It's alright. Tomorrow we're going to this bloody traction engine rally. This morning we've got to take this traction engine back to Bury, and it'll be dinner time-ish when we get back, like. Yeah, so, yeah, make sure nobody nicks it. Yeah, there's Jack. It's amazing how much Jack's learned, considering he's only 4 years old. You know, he knows all the names of all the parts of the engines and where everything goes. You give him an oil can and he puts it all in the right place. You can see why steam engines really went out of fashion. It takes about an hour to get one going, sort of style. Oh, there's our friend from the BBC come giving us a lift. We have lots and lots of visitors from all walks of life, from the most humble to the very rich, you know, noble men as well. Just doing a job on an engine that belongs to an His Lordship gent. Steam coming out of the safety valves. Ready, movement, we're off. Give it a trial run down the road first, I think, see how it performs. When I have a ride on that one, it always urges me on to have a do at my home, because my home tractor is a very similar machine to what this one is, but slightly bigger. It's got bigger wheels, so it'll go faster. There's one for sale in the World's Fair this week at £32,000. Just the same as what this is. Oh, very similar.
7, I think it is, and you know, this is really what it's all about. You know, really enjoy this business. In fact, really, it's one of England's best tourist attractions now. There's basically thousands of people come to these do's every weekend during the summertime. You know, I never realised there were that many people filled up with nostalgia and steam engines. You know, over the last 20 years, it's really come on heavy, this stuff. I mean, now people are paying literally thousands of pounds for a ride like this set of gallopers, which, of course, they were so big and so hard to move about in the old days, they couldn't get rid of them fast enough, the fairground men, for one that, like, folds up and shuts away into one box on the back of a wagon. That creation there is what's termed as a portable engine, which of course is working a stone crusher, which is a machine for smashing rocks up into making it into ballast, which is dead handy, you know, especially if you have a big long drive and you can't afford the tarmac. No, that's a bit of a mystery. I don't know what make that is. I know one thing, the belt's a bit slack. Yeah, that's a proverbial thrashing machine, I think. You know, I don't quite know how they work because I've never been a country boy, but you know, this is a bit more up my style. Sawing the wood with the steam engine. Like that blade must be all of 5 foot diameter. It's a fair old lump of iron going round. The reason for the demise of them is the thickness of the blade is so great that the time they've sawn a tree up, they've sawn about 3 planks out of it into sawdust. So they've all gone in favour of the bandsaw. There's his lordship's machine, Messner Castle. That's Mr. Dennis Brandt and his big Fowler Roboco. It's not Atlas. Atlas is my favourite. That one is one very similar. Well, it's got wooden rims on the wheels now. Cost him a lot of money, and he says he gets very upset when he sees all the wood on the tarmac because you've gone along the road wearing them away.
One small Dibnah. I can't do that anymore. I'm too old.
There he is.
If I do, I suffer
Something in the city,
bad
isn't Dennis?
But be careful.
Handsome piece of tattle, that. Yeah, there's the wood, you see what I mean, you know. Oh, bits of wood coming off.
Jack, go and get the end of the old pipe. I look at it this way actually, you're doing the local water authority a service and the fire brigade as well, because imagine if your house were over there and sometimes these hydrants are full up to the top with muck, you know, and when we stop
we've got to dig all the muck out before we can get some water out of it. And if your house were burning down day after, or the fire, you know, the fire brigade arrived and we hadn't stopped there before, there were precious minutes wasted when all your valuables were being melted down, you see. The thing is, I can't see why anybody should argue, you know, about us just pinching a few gallons of water. I mean, we're very good for the tourist trade as well. And also, sort of, you know, the lad who just gone by with his engine, he were in the middle of Lancaster one day and he snapped one open and the top come off. And it was belting up in the sky about 20 feet, you know, and so water everywhere. Sent him a bill for 20 quid, I think, or something. It wouldn't be so bad if it were an easier, and you have to have the strength of...
It's never been old for a long time, has it?
Yeah. That's better. And you turned it off. Safely tested and we'll send our report to the fire brigade. Boom, come on. Take off. I'm getting too old for it, really, you know. It's sort of the first 20 years of the worst. Such dirty things and all, and spew muck everywhere. As soon as you finish cleaning it, it's as bad again after the first journey.
So why do you do it then?
Oh, I like it. It's sort of a love-hate relationship.
All those who are
Have you got any comments you wish to make about Vicar this morning?
He's a good singer, isn't he? Oh, yeah. Yeah, he's quite a boy, eh? A bit of a wisecracker. Oh, it's not looking so bad now. We're ready for the grand turnout, you know. The race round the arena. If we can get out of this hole, you know, we don't end up with our wheels spinning round and not going nowhere. This is Assel Park in Cheshire, near Jodrell Bank or Macclesfield or whatever you want to put it, which is a really nicest traction engine rally, one of the nicest in the north of England, which I've been going there for about 15 years. The only problem is it's a full day of a job from Bolton to Chelford. You know, it's a fair jag on a steamroller. The tractor will be much better. We do it in about half a day on that. There's our steamroller, which was built in 1910, and you can tell it's come a long way because the wheels are shiny. This is the Grand Parade, steam engines. Much as though it's rained a bit and a bit of wheel spin. If you get stuck in a funny place. This engine is one of the biggest showman's engines that has survived. It's a McLaren made in Leeds called Goliath. I think it weighs about 25 tons. It started its life off pulling big guns in the 1914 war and then ended up bought by a man called Mr. Pat Collins in Midlands, who had a great fleet of traction engines. Ended its sort of showland days at Alton Towers in Staffordshire and purchased from there by Mr. Lithgow, who spent a lot of money and time on it, making it into what it is today, you know, a magnificent machine. This is an Aveling tractor which has just undergone severe boiler surgery. In fact, it's had a new firebox and I think half a new tender and a new front tube plate. Mind you, they've all done 70 years, you see, these things, and they get a bit worn out. Somebody has got to spend a lot of money to bring them back to runnable condition again, even before you start with the paintbrush. Really, for somebody who owns an engine, you know, the actual dues are pretty what the same wherever you go, you know. A lot of people load their engines up on low loaders and zoom along at 60 mile an hour and can't get there fast enough. But for me, I'm afraid I much prefer steaming the thing all the way along the road. It's that sort of unforeseen encounters and minor disasters and meeting different people along the road make the thing, you know, quite exciting. You know, we've ended up at weddings and all sorts of things going along. You know, like little Jack, he's magic. You know, you want to try and get him off the damn thing when you know he's screaming and shouting. He don't want the day to come to an end. Like the engine in the background with the great crane on it, that's ironically belongs to a man called Mr. Crane, who has the crane engine, and he lives in Wolverhampton. He's a nice sort of guy who he's got quite a few engines, you know. There's a little teeny one, you know, there's a lot of them. They're quite expensive to buy now. They change hands for fees like 15 and 20,000 pounds, you know, depending on the quality of the model maker. There's a very beautiful model. Really, it's harder to play about with a thing like that, actually make one like that, than it is mess with the real thing, you know, other than the fact that everything's nice and light but 3 times as fiddly to make one. That's Steam's answer to the diesel road roller, a Wallace and Stevens Advance road roller, which has no flywheel, so you could put it in reverse quick. It didn't sink in the tarmac like a 3-point standard roller with a flywheel. By the time you've stopped the flywheel going round, the thing has actually sunk down into the tarmac, and so it put paid to 3-point steam-driven road rollers, and the Wallace were the last attempt to overcome this. But alas, the diesel engine won. There's our friendly policeman on his bike. Nothing like a steamroller in a wet field. Slurs about like a bar of soap on a wet sink. You can't stop the thing. That is an Aveling steam tractor going very fast. Pursued by the police. It's quite funny, this. He's been on the beer again. Somebody throwing coal at him. Some people actually think this is real, you know. Lost his bike now. Yeah, some handcuffs and all, you know. They don't half hurt. They're a bit on the small side, you know, and he puts them on and pinches hot whiskers on your nose. This guy is actually still a policeman, I believe, and you know, it's nice to see like this sort of public relations exercise.
This is probably about 8 o'clock in the morning. Everybody making their engines look as tidy as they can for the special occasion. That's the Fowler coat of arms. That's Evening Star. This is a Showman's engine owned by Mike Priestner. It's a Burrell single crank compound. Of John Pennington, a farmer from Dunham Massey. It's a very sad occasion, this, of course, and everybody's, well, the ones that were within reach of bringing their engine have very kindly made the effort. At least one engine had been put away for the winter, boiler drained and firebox greased up and everything, and he still made the effort to bring it along and steam it up today. Much appreciated, of course. There's a few of the floral tributes. This is the wall just outside his house. All this activity is taking place just outside his house, of course. There's the old trusty Land Rover, which has been off the road, I believe, for a few weeks, wanting some major work. But we couldn't leave it out on this occasion. So it was just being coupled up behind the living van there. That was my transport to and from home during the 5 happy years I spent with Fred. He'd no use for it of an evening. He said you might as well take it. And it was parked outside our house for most of the time during the 5 years. That's his air bar that he used when he put it behind his roller, or behind his living van. More polishing. There's John Pennington, farmer from Dunham Massey. Oh, making a little bit of a special effort. There were 4 visiting engines in total, one from as far away as Nottingham. That's this one, so be it. Jeff Lamb from Nottingham. Engine owner for many years and met up with Fred at rallies from time to time. They've all come on low loaders, of course. The shed's not on fire there, it's just steaming up the roller. The tractor is in one side of the shed and the roller is where it's always been. The roller has a ventilator above it so that most of the smoke from the chimney can get straight out through the roof, but that doesn't occur in the case of the tractor. That's why the tractor's filling the shed with smoke. You can see the line shaft in there. There's the Showman's engine, Mike Priesters. He's not had that long, he's only had it about 2 years. Showman's engines welcome a run on the road now and again, of course, because they, being such big machines, they're nearly always moved from rally to rally on a low loader. Just a few of them get an occasional road run. Starting to get very busy on Radcliffe Road there. I don't usually park cars, but I think they've been kept away on this particular day. The police were informed, of course, that all this activity would be going on, so they've kept the road entirely free for us, as the low loaders are parked up further down. Now this is the trailer that's going to carry Fred's coffin. It's been brought up from Worthing behind the Land Rover by Michael Webber, a young chap who used to see a great deal of Fred when he lived in Bolton, but he moved down south and now runs his own little engineering firm. he's decorated it all, and he's done an absolutely wonderful job. He's got all the bits and pieces of Fred's profession. There's his bosun's chair and a hammer and chisel and some dogs on the other side, that's it. They were used for driving into the chimney to tie the ladders to. A couple of ladders there with his name, all prepared. Spent many hours preparing that trailer and done a wonderful job. We're all indebted to him. And there's Betsy, finally in steam, being driven out carefully up about a 1 in 8 slope from his back garden. It's at low level, out through the gate onto the road. That's me in the white overalls. I'm actually driving the roller. One of Fred's last requests when he was making his own arrangements. He did ask the main organiser if he'd get me to drive the roller. Because believe it or not, over the years, very, very few people were ever privileged to drive his roller. He needed a steersman, of course, and a few of his friends have helped him out steering. But he knew I was a regular traction engine driver, of course, so he paid me the honour of asking would I drive Betsy on his final journey, which obviously I was very, very delighted to be asked. And, couldn't refuse, obviously. We were expecting possibly a little bit of trouble with the roller because it had sprung a tube leak some time previously, but the boiler inspector had had a look at it and he had given it clearance. He said it'll be all right, and in fact it was. It didn't let us down. The living van will be going behind the roller with his name on, of course. The living van has been recently restored, ready for his nationwide tour behind his tractor, and there's his tractor. 27 years work, from virtually a pile of scrap through to the fine machine you see today. There's one of Fred's mining friends, probably a retired miner. I can't put a name to him, but I have a feeling that he's one of the chaps that may well have helped him out during the digging of his coal mine in his back garden. Controversial coal mine, which all the neighbours thought was going to cause their houses to disappear. Nothing of the sort. Just coupling up the Land Rover there to behind the living van. Police did an excellent job for us this day. The procession had no trouble at all, going exactly where we wanted to go. It was all planned beforehand, of course. And the police did an excellent job. They carried messages for us and they cleared the way and they gave us an escort wherever we needed it. There's the Rolls Royce, the vehicle of style that's brought him from the Chapel of Rest and now be transferred onto the black wagon. That's another of his mining friends, ex-miner, runs a club at West Horton now, the Miners Club. Now just notice how easy that coffin slides along those ladders. That's because they've all been fitted up with rollers, just for the purpose to receive it. That's Michael Webber, just climbing up now to tie it down. That's the lad that's gone to all the trouble of preparing the wagon and bringing it 270 miles. behind the Land Rover. His Land Rover, that is. Done an excellent job, Michael. And that's the Elephant and Castle, which forms a major part of Bolton's coat of arms, of course. That's why that's there. Just remind everybody that Fred was a genuine son of Bolton, just in case they'd forgotten, which I'm sure they hadn't. This is the band, a local TA band of the Royal Artillery, who volunteered for the occasion. They led the procession. Time's getting short now, so getting close to the time to move off. We were on time all throughout, by the way. There were no delays. There's Betsy, a good head of steam. Steering on this occasion is Roger Murray, one of the main organisers of all this. He's done a lot of work. Friend of Fred's of many, many years. Steam engine man. Doesn't own one at present, but has done in the past. And they've always kept in touch with one another, and he readily stepped in and undertook a lot of this organisation. Done an excellent job. And Jack, Fred's eldest lad from the Isle of Man, was steering the tractor, along with Michael Webber. I visited Fred on 2 or 3 occasions during his last few weeks at the hospital and at the hospice, where incidentally they looked after him very, very well. He was very comfortable, and he did, Roger Murray and Michael visited him on a number of occasions, and that's where he expressed most of his wishes. He wanted a good Victorian funeral, he said. And by Jove, that's what he got, without a shadow of a doubt. The weather wasn't too brilliant. Light rain for most of the day, but as you'll see, it didn't deter people from coming to pay their last respects. We were expecting a lot of people to turn out, but when we saw the weather, we thought that might have reduced the numbers slightly, but it certainly didn't. Everybody who decided to come took no notice of the bad weather, and they all turned out, as you'll see when we get to the church. And they're all moving off now. The order of the procession was that the band, followed by the roller towing the living van and Land Rover, followed by his tractor, "27 years work, just finally completed, just in time," driven by Michael Webber and Jack, his eldest son. Roger, the youngest lad, was with me on the roller, followed by his wife and her immediate family in the rolls, and Fred's 3 daughters, who also kept in close contact with him during his hospital stay. They were in the cars, and then there's the 4 visiting engines. It was a sad day for us all, of course, but I'm sure Jack would have felt it more than most, but very, very luckily driving the engine and looking after the engine and preparing the engine, of course, at least it took his mind off things for a while. He'd driven it quite a bit. I think the first time it ever ventured up that slope, when Fred finally completed it and got it steam worthy, Jack came over for the occasion. I think he was with him the first time it put its wheels on the road. And even though he lives in the Isle of Man, he came over at every opportunity. So he's followed and he came over quite a few times during Fred's recent countrywide tour. Now this is just outside the church, and just look at the crowds there. Now I don't know whether you've ever been to a funeral where the crowds appreciate the preparation by applauding, but that's what happened there. It was quite overwhelming, really. The whole of Bolton turned out, and the applause was their way of appreciating the preparation work which had got into it. The church, I believe, holds about 550, and it was full to standing. One of the undertaker's jobs had to make sure that the church was occupied by people with a perfectly legitimate reason to be there, and the rest were quite happy to stand in the rain outside. I wouldn't mind betting that this is the biggest funeral that undertaker's ever done, and ever likely to do.
He only had a few, like 10 minutes, but he showed me his mine shaft.
Yeah.
Showed me round his back garden, and do you know something like a kid's dream? It was like, wow, what's all this here?
You know that sand pit, there's a sand pit down there.
Yeah, down at bottom, yeah.
And you know coping stones off a chimney?
Yeah.
Well, that's what.
Well, I remember another one when we watched him drop a chimney. You remember Morrison's up Jolly Old Road?
Yeah.
Now I've been told it weren't him lately, but I know it was. And he burned it and chimney, woof, and all he did was run away. Onk, onk, with like a thing on him, onk, onk. And he were legging it and chimney were going down and he were off. He were gone. He were laughing his head off. As though it were a laugh, but sorry, I couldn't do that.
Then I'm telling you that.
Fred, I'm brilliant guy. Like to watch him on TV. He was down to earth, not many celebrities. He was an ordinary man that ordinary people could relate to, and I'm going to miss him dearly. Thank you.
What do you think of the funeral today? Do you think it's really got Bolton people out?
It's got a lot of people out, not only from Bolton, from Liverpool, from even across the world. There are a few people here. And it just shows the strength that he was regarded. He's really a nice guy. He was liked, loved, down to earth.
Did you meet him yourself?
No, I didn't. But I feel what I have now. I've been here today. I've enjoyed the spirit of the people here, and he really has touched my heart. And yes, I did have a cry.
Thank you very much.
Very upsetting. Glad that we've missed him. He's a good man, you know what I mean? Everyone will miss him.
Did you ever meet him yourself?
Yeah, I've met him myself, yeah. Good
and how
chap.
did you find him?
Very good gentleman, yeah.
And with Roy, you knew Fred, didn't you, Roy?
Yeah, we all knew Fred. Good morning.
What are your thoughts today?
Sad ones, very sad ones. Very sad ones.
And years ago, you used to go down there and do a bit of filming on his yard and stuff like that, didn't you?
Yeah, I think it was 25 years ago when I was down filming, when we was doing the roller up at that time for the Wigan Corporation and reboilering it. I filmed it coming up out of the yard a few times and going out on its first road run and trials. Yeah, it's a very sad day indeed.
How will you remember Fred?
Well, he was always very jolly, jovial. He liked talking to everybody, gave everybody the information. Once you got to know him, he was a really nice guy.
There's the Book of Condolence, which had many signatures on. All remembering Fred as a cheerful chap who was always prepared to speak to them. Sadly missed, will Fred? There's Barry Newworth, one of the chaps who gave him one of his very early steeplejacking jobs. The vicar of Radcliffe at the time, and he later became vicar of Kirby Malham in Yorkshire, and he christened the two lads at Kirby Malham. And we repaired his church tower, Fred, and that was during the time I was with Fred. He repointed his church tower, and I painted the gutters and downspouts. Well, we were there for 2 or 3 weeks. Stayed in lodgings up there, Monday to Friday. And there's poor Jack, feeling it just a bit more than most, I'm sure. Shared a lot of common interest with his dad. He's gone in for engineering, so he's got to have inherited a lot of his dad's interests. He's now with the Isle of Man Railways, steam railways, of course. This really is the day that brought Bolton to a complete standstill. There was no work done in Bolton between 12 o'clock and 2 o'clock that day. They all turned out, stood everywhere they could. Just looking up Churchgate towards the church from Bradshaw Gate. Patiently waiting. There we are, a cloud of steam in the background indicating that we've finally set off. There's a parade right round the periphery of the town now, terminating at the Tong Cemetery. People used to ask Fred, "Have you ever fallen off? Have you ever fallen off?" he used to say. "You only fall off this job once and it's half a day with the undertaker," a phrase he used many, many times. It's a great pity that there was no camera up by the fire station, because the route took us past the fire station and all the duty firemen lined up and stood to attention in a long line right across the front of the fire station, with the 4 fire engines deliberately brought out with all the lights on, and saluted us as we went past. It was a fine sight, and it's just a pity that there wasn't a camera there to pick it up, but it was certainly much appreciated by the travellers in the party. Traffic lights were ignored, of course. We had a policeman in front of us, and he warned everybody at the junction that we were on our way, and they all just stopped. There were no problems with the traffic. Here we have the people of Bolton now, well satisfied with what they've seen. They made the effort to come out on a miserable day, as evident by all the umbrellas, and they're now making their way back to work or back home, as the case may be. They've all made the special effort. That's very, very nice to see. Presumably mostly Boltonians, who felt that they knew Fred like a friend, even though they'd possibly never met him, a lot of them, but just because of his popularity on television. And I mean popularity. I don't mean popularity in the way that a pop singer might be. Everybody felt that Fred was a genuine character, and by Jove he was. Anybody that made the effort to come and have a look round his place, the man they spoke to in his yard was exactly the same man that they saw on television. There was absolutely no difference. He didn't have what they call an image. Fred was Fred, whether he was on television or chatting to somebody in his yard. It was just the same. Nice to see Jack driving there rather than steering. Eminently capable. the Vicar of Bolton on the left, and Fred's friend, the Vicar from Kirby Malham. And here we have Fred approaching his final resting place to be saluted in the way that he would have wished, which is not unique for a steam man, but at least it's extremely appropriate. A long blast on the whistles of the attending engines. Well, that just about sums up a unique day. A good friend of mine, Fred. As I say, I met him first about 1965, 66, and enjoyed 5 happy years working with him from 89 to 94. And he'll be missed by everybody in Bolton, and far more besides. He came over on the television as though everybody felt they knew him, and he'd a great following, and he will certainly be sadly missed by me and many, many others.
just arrived at Fred Dibnah's house. Been a bit of a trek. I just wanted to look at it. That's all I wanted to do. I don't think you're allowed in. The gates are open, but I don't think you can walk down there. There we go. Just behind that tree is the chimney he built. There's cars down there, but I don't know. Hey? So the guy who owns the place has just let us in. We're standing outside and he pulled up in a tow truck. So we can just take a look round. There we go. There's the workshop. The rollers would have been. The stone rollers. Wow. Hey? Yeah? Oh, there's it.
There you go.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, this is obviously where his
The rollers were.
roller was, and then that's where he used to put his, you know, his carriage at the back.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh.
Amazing.
Yeah, we're trying to keep it going. That's why he's got just had the burger van and all that, you know, so people can still come in and enjoy.
We wasn't sure. We stood at the top. We've been travelling for a few days, so
have you?
Yeah, all around the Lake District and everywhere. So we thought we'd come this way.
Well, like I say, when you've had a look, you're more than welcome to go and have a look inside.
Thank you. That is
honestly,
awesome.
You are. Honestly, everybody who comes is still welcome to come in.
Yeah.
It's Fred's place, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know what I mean, fortunately, the gentleman you lived in before sold a lot of his equipment. Putting all the pulleys and that.
Still see the black in the roof where he would have fired his engines up.
Yeah, because that up there, that's where his engine was. Oh, you know,
Yeah.
for use all the pulleys.
Yeah, the stationary engine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're trying to get old, you know. We've got people at scrap games who can find old things, you know, to try and replicate it. It doesn't even have to be perfect, does it? But
So how long have you guys been here?
What?
So is it pretty much the same as it was?
Yeah, they basically where he's done is just painted these doors.
Yeah.
That's it, really. Everything's exactly the same as what it was.
Yeah.
You can't really change anything, you know, because it's grade 2.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh. Yeah.
Yeah, these were the brown and the, what's it called? Come in.
Oh, thank you.
Good pictures all over you. Just don't get my ugly mug in it. The papers have been trying to contact me for
This was like his. Obviously, had, you know, 2 lounges, so you had like a little lounge in here.
Yeah.
And another one here as well. I think this was his main room, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Turn light on, you can see better. But yeah, here is that's where the path is.
Is it?
Yeah, so like underground.
Oh, right.
That's
so
where
the path is literally above this?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's mad. It's just, like I said, he's done it all himself.
Yeah.
Got to keep his memory going. These are the only things that he's got left.
Wow.
That was the mine shaft.
Yeah. Is that actually his drawing or just a copy of it?
Yeah.
Is it?
He's got it there when he did the dirt and that.
Wow.
Yeah. I'm sorry, come in. Yeah, I can imagine that back. Imagine if he was still here now, doing that.
Yeah.
They'd be like, you can't do that, Fred. The same, if you won't come through to the front room, I'll have a look.
Yeah.
Your mates just had a look.
Or was he already?
Yeah, this is his main living room, and then I think that he used to have people round. I think he sat in that one.
He says he's haunted with him. It is one. I mean,
Yeah, well, when where they used to have a dog called King Corsa, but it was a little bit too much because everybody kept coming in. We wanted him to be a guard dog, not a pet. Yeah. And he went a bit over for a couple of days. So I stayed here, I could actually see him walking upstairs. And it doesn't scare me because what's most haunted and all that stuff and missing. Well, when I come back next morning, I said, there's somebody upstairs walking. Yeah, look. It's up in.
Amazing.
You can hear footsteps, you know, and I weren't dreaming of this, you know what I mean? Here, I see, and it was like you could hear it coming from, you know, that direction near his bedroom.
Yeah.
I'll take it up now anyway.
Yeah, thank you.
So the doors are open.
Oh, these are steep, aren't they?
that wasn't it?
Hey.
That's lovely, wasn't it?
Bang my head.
It'll be alright. That room's short.
Yeah.
Well, this used to be Fred's office.
Oh, right.
His table, you know, used to be here.
Yeah.
But this is like a massage room, you know, for people. And but yeah, wardrobe in here. And this is the best one. A lot of people don't see it because it's. You wouldn't think it was there.
What's that then?
It's just stand there, isn't it?
Oh wow, that's going to come down. Oh, wow.
It's like a pre-stall. Cool, man.
Yeah.
And what he's actually done is, see this chain here?
Yeah.
That goes to a weight outside.
Oh, and they're sort of
outside the house, I'll show you now, innit? It's well But none of us knew it was there at first.
Amazing.
It's a good one, that one, isn't it?
Yeah.
You'd see that far off, you'd never know, would you?
No.
And then, yeah, this bathroom.
Yeah.
That used to be his bedroom. Well, yeah, nothing big changed. It's just a little bit of paint here, you know. And you get some, hopefully, when you get some plastic in over these windows, as you can see, because it's still single glazed.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Unbelievable. Mind your head. This beam here got my ridiculously low duck.
I think it was. Use one before and someone else can get it.
That's brilliant. I can see the pulley. So that door we've just opened above the stairs, there's a pulley at the top of this tube here and the weight is in there. That helps open the door. That is truly amazing. Unbelievable. Well, I didn't think I'd get in here, but we have. We timed that right. mine shaft. I think he got into a bit of trouble with this, with planning. What a beautiful job. Alright, gotta get back up to the bikes. So the bit we've been in is below this path. Apparently the house goes underground. There we go. The man's final resting place. People are leaving Guinness, spanners, flat cap. It's in a bit of a sorry state, to be honest with you. I think it should be something quite spectacular, like a huge chimney sat here. And properly marked out. There you go. Quite sad for such an amazing man. Well, amazing in my opinion. We're very lucky to be at the gates of his house. I'll still call it his house. For the new owner to turn up. And was very, very happy to let us in. Into the house as well. Mixed views on it. I know apparently he's only just owned it. He's only owned it for a couple of months and intends to sort it out. Amazing to get round there, it really was, and see down the mine shaft, see the chimney, go in the house. But he'd be rolling in that grave if he's seen it now. Apparently the owner before literally stripped it of everything and sold it all on. You know, the stuff that the family didn't have. I don't know all the ins and outs of it. I'm just going by what these guys said that let us into the house. So in a way we timed it right, that we was there when they turned up and let us in, and was more than happy for us to go in and have a look round, which is fantastic. If they ever get to see this video, thank you very much guys, we have thanked them. It's amazing but sad, really sad to see it like that. You know, we've all seen it on the TV, the hive of activity that was there and all this amazing engineering. It's just a shame to see it all gone and some bits in disrepair. But I hope the guys said they were going to sort it out, and I hope they do. I really do, because it's certainly worthy of that. Wished I could buy it. I'd have something up and running in there. Anyway, we're going to change, get warmed up. Still got a bit of a trek home from here. We're going to park up here, which is going towards Birmingham, and I'm going back Incley way. So it's getting a bit chilly now, so we're going to wrap up and get going.